Welcome to Seeing Dead People, the mystery storytelling podcast with a clairvoyant twist.
When I went, the first thing I heard when I went up to the second floor in the ballroom, and I'm in there and I'm looking around and I kept thinking, can't people see them dancing? Okay, I could hear the music and it went from ballroom dancing to light step dancing. I also heard like blues type of music. And so for me, and as I looked down at picture number 8, I just saw 2 people sit in the chair, wondering if they ever had seances in this place.
Well, I don't know, but we should do that. And now, Radio Sydney presents Seeing Dead People, Episode 3, The Coal King's Haunted Castle. Our telling of this famous Canadian ghost story will be a bit different from our usual approach. In the past, we've targeted one well-known, specific, documented, and witnessed ghostly spirit. Today, we're focusing on a spooky place, an actual castle on southern Vancouver Island that has exhibited a number of different paranormal events. It's currently a museum and has been designated a National Historic Site. In addition, our talented psychic Darcy has actually visited this locale and personally experienced its supernatural vibes with her as she describes who and what otherworldly events she personally encountered. A bit like on episode 1, our guest Nikki held us spellbound as she recounted her eyewitness meeting with the woman who haunts the Victoria Golf Course. Today is going to be an extraordinary conversation. Goosebumps guaranteed. So hey Darcy, are you ready to take us on a chilling tour of a haunted castle?
I am ready to do that.
Okay, I can't wait. So let's get right to today's spooky tale, Darcy. As I mentioned, it focuses on a place haunted by one particular spirit. Of course, we're not talking about just any place, but a fairy tale castle located just outside downtown Victoria, British Columbia. This castle was first the family home of the Dunsmuirs, then a military hospital, then a college, a school board office, and a music conservatory before finally becoming a popular and haunted museum. Not surprisingly, this legendary castle and the unimaginable wealth it represented caused animosity, in this case between the Dunsmuirs themselves, in fact between a mother and her 2 sons, resulting in acrimony and lawsuits and raw emotional anguish which is still felt by some who visit the museum today. So, Darcy, let's get to the nub. Who built this now haunted castle?
Well, my understanding is that Mr. Dunsmuir started the castle after they were married and he moved from Nanaimo to Victoria. And during the process of it, Mr. Dunsmuir passed away.
You already know that. Okay.
Well, and I am looking at picture number 1, which I know we're going to talk a little bit about later. But Mr. Dunsmuir would be one of the people that I believe haunts the castle, as well as a servant. I do believe his wife is there. And there's a young, I think it's a young girl in the castle as well.
Okay, cool. All right, well, you're jumping ahead, which is fine. Well, I'll tell you, yes, you're right. It was Robert Dunsmuir, who was a Scottish Canadian and, believe it or not, the richest man in British Columbia in the 19th century. Dunsmuir owned a staggering 1/5 of Vancouver Island, or roughly 2 million acres, amounting to most of the land between Nanaimo and Esquimalt. Just following a straight line from one of those towns to the next equates to more than 100 kilometers of land. Robert Dunsmuir received this unbelievable real estate as a partial fee for completing the Canadian National Railway in 1886, but that's not where Dunsmuir made his filthy lucre. The black coal hiding deep below those lands were like gold mines. Big, rich ones, and Dunsmuir's coal mining business raked in more than $1,000 a day in the 1880s. That's equivalent to about 25,000 loonies every 24 hours today. No wonder they named him the Coal King of British Columbia. Talk about a rags to riches story. Robert went from living in a log cabin in Nanaimo, BC, when he first immigrated to Canada in the mid-1800s, to being the wealthiest human in Western Canada a mere 4 decades later. So okie dokie, you're in 1887 and you've got more dough than anybody else in British Columbia. What do you do to show it off? Why, you spend $500,000, that's 11 million bucks in our money, to build a home. Not just any stately home or even a magnificent mansion. Nope. Scotsman Robert Dunsmuir had to have a castle, with a tower, of course, and he gave it a fancy name, Craig Derrick, which is Gaelic for a rocky oak place. To create this pied-à-terre for himself, his wife, and 3 unmarried daughters, Dunsmuir snatched 28 acres of prime Victoria real estate and then had a grey granite bonanza castle built on a hilltop, festooned with a red-tiled roof and circular tower, arched windows, and massive chimneys. Make sure you check out the photos I've posted on Instagram, listeners, because Craig Derrick is truly a jaw-dropping, Gothic, turreted stone folly. This one-of-a-kind family home, originally for 5 people, boasts 25,000 square feet on 4 massive floors, divvied up by 39 rooms and heated by no less than 17 fireplaces. Much of the interior is decorated with fabulous stained glass windows, intricately carved woodwork, and gorgeous Victorian furnishings, and everything is reached by an imposing 87-step oak-paneled staircase. And, of course, with 3 spinster daughters, an enormous 4th-floor dance hall ballroom was de rigueur. As you'll see in the photos, this is one extraordinary and gorgeous building. So, Darcy, before I expand on the Dunsmuir clan, let's talk a bit about the 21 photos I've sent you. First, there are a couple of old pics of Craig Derrick, when it was just finished in the late 1800s, a couple of black and white snaps of Robert and his wife Joan, and then a bunch of modern photos of the castle's interior, including the dining room, the library, staircase, and bedrooms. So I know there are a lot of pics, Darcy, but before we get into any details, did any jump out at you? I know in the past, in one photo, you saw little green blobs jumping off a bridge. So what's leaping out to you today?
Well, the first one is number 1 with Robert Dunsmuir.
Okay.
Just his energy of being, it's funny, he may have been one of the wealthiest men in the world, but he didn't feel it.
Really?
Yeah, that feeling of still struggling from where you were to where you're going to be. And most people, I would think, would climatize knowing that, but the fact that he had all that money, I don't feel that as well with him.
Really? So you feel he always felt he was poor?
I think so. I feel like he always felt like he had to do better.
Ah.
The next person.
Really? Okay.
Did compare himself to people, or he was compared, because it's almost like, when you hear your father's voice saying you're not going to be good enough.
Yes.
And that's what I keep hearing him, okay, is you're not quite good enough, which makes me wonder if he applied it to his own boys as well.
Yeah.
Then I go to number 2 of Joan.
Right.
Okay. She just strikes me as being, when you look at her picture, she looks bland. Like there's no spirit, there's no nothing in number 2. She's just there, and I do realize sometimes it's the way they take the picture.
Yeah, okay.
But when I go to number 3 of Joan in 1890, she sort of scares me a little. It's like I'd be afraid that if I stepped out of line, she's going to reprimand me. So she obviously did all the stuff around the house, like not just raising the children, but I would also say the punishment aspect of children.
Oh, so you see her as a very strict kind of disciplinarian.
I do, and very much that if you don't do it my way, there's sort of the highway, but I do think with negotiation, she might be able to come up with different plans.
Okay, because she definitely has a very severe look on her face.
She does. She sort of reminds me of my Grandma Grace, who used to scare the crap out of me too.
Okay.
And then number 4 takes us back to Robert Dunsmuir, and again, it's in the 1890s, but when I look at his eyes, he makes me just feel like he's sad.
Oh, okay.
He's always looking, like I said, for something that makes him a better man. And I think for him, showing off his wealth made him feel important, or at least that was the idea behind it. But the truth is, he never really got showed up because he died before the house was completed. He actually died as it was being done.
Now, I have to ask you, Darcy, I'm going to challenge you here. Are you telling me this because you've been to Craig Derrick and you know a little bit about the history, or are you telling me this because Robert Dunsmuir is telling you this?
A little of both.
Okay.
But when I look at the 1890s, I'm thinking, I don't think he was alive much after, like maybe 8-10 years after. He might have made it to 1900, but I'm not sure.
Okay, well, I can tell you that we can't have a ghost story, of course, without some tragedy, and the Dunsmuirs and Craig Derrick fairly swam in it. First off, the castle's architect was the first to go. He died at 43 in 1887, just 4 months into the build of this amazing castle. And then poor Robert, as you know, the Coal King himself, he did die in 1889, a few months shy of his 65th birthday. And too bad being filthy rich just doesn't guarantee you life. He took his last breath with his castle unfinished and bequeathed his wife, locally known as Queen Joan, an estate valued today at over $400 million. Can you believe that figure?
No, but looking at this, I noticed there weren't any pictures of the sons, or am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I didn't put pictures of the sons. They are in existence, but I was focusing more on your choice of, you're discovering which ghosts we're talking about today from the Dunsmuir family, and then going on to focus on the ghosts that you yourself have seen in addition to that. But if you have insight into the sons, go for it.
Okay, because my understanding at that time there were a lot of children. It wasn't just 2 sons and the 3 unmarried daughters.
Yeah, there were more than 9 or 10.
Okay, because I'm feeling like Mom lost the child somewhere.
Yes.
Okay, and that's why I'm thinking it might be a girl who's wandering the premise.
Oh, okay.
But if you also mentioned that the
architect himself, yep.
Okay, then he's the other man. Now I understand. He's the man I saw wandering the hall because he's checking out the layout, because I think they detoured off his actual plan.
You're kidding, really? Oh, neat.
Yeah, I feel like something about the way either the stairs go up, and I'm looking at picture number 10.
Okay, of the staircase.
Of the staircase, and when you go up, like, I literally can see people walking up the staircase in all kinds of clothes. And it's funny, I didn't realize that this had been used as a military hospital.
Yes.
But now I understand why I saw the lady in white with the funny hat that would made me think at first I thought she was a maid, but she wasn't. She was a nurse.
Ah, okay, during the World War I era.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So, and then, interesting enough, and I know I'm jumping here.
That's okay.
But I was just looking at, which one was it? It was one of the pictures. See, even number 6 and number 7, the colored picture of Craig Derrick and the uncolored picture. When I look at them, I keep thinking something was missing. Like when they built it, I don't know if they were supposed to put a different frontage on it or whether it was supposed to be bigger. But when I look at it, I feel like something is missing to the design. So I'd be really curious to see where that design was supposed to go.
Yeah. Now, do you think the disappointment you're feeling is it coming from the architect or is it coming from Robert?
Well, Robert's disappointment is the fact he never got to live in it.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Because this was to show, and the other part, which I'm certain none of them ever want to hear was, I sort of feel like his wife was behind the building of it.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a new one for me.
It may have been some of her idea. Okay, I don't know if you can look at picture number 9.
Yep.
The living room.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so when the person's taking this picture, I would say that they're standing at the opening of it, correct? Just by the way the picture, so they're standing to the right, and the picture's taken in such a way that it gives you more to the left of the room.
I would guess that would make sense from what I see of the picture, yeah.
Okay, now I'd like you, if you can blow your picture up a little and look in the mirror.
Okay, hang on a second. I'm going to do just that. I'm going to find, number 8?
Number 9.
Number 9, binder twine. Okay, 9, there it is. Okay, I got you. Blow up the mirror?
Yeah, blow up the mirror. Do you see what's in the mirror?
What do you see?
Well, when I look, I've got the same setup. I've got the mantle with the vases with the peacock feather. Then I've got the little piano, and above the piano are three portraits by the looks of it of children. And then I'm going to guess the lady of the house. Then there's the gold frame mirror, and inside the mirror there's a lady standing.
Oh, you're kidding.
I can see her. She's got blonde hair. She's wearing a blue dress, and there's an arm going around her shoulder, and I can't see who the arm belongs to, but she's looking outside.
Oh, neat.
Now look at that same mirror.
Okay, number 8, hang on, there it is. Oh, yeah, it's the same shot, farther away. Oh, we have a woman with a sash.
Yes, Joan Dunn's mirror. And I look, and I know you called her Queen Joan. If you go to number 8 and just blow it up a little bit, again, look to the mirror. It looks like there's a lady with that sash that Queen Elizabeth wears in the mirror. So it makes me feel that Joan felt very important in this house.
Oh, Darcy, that's so cool. Hang on, I got to see this. So I'm going to pinch that down. I'm going to look a completely different image in those two mirrors. Yep. I thought it was a painting.
No.
Amazing. They're totally different.
Yeah. And you know it's a mirror because there's the reflection.
Yeah, and it does absolutely look like the queen with the sash, and that could be Queen Joan. Wouldn't that be cool? Now, what's interesting is these two photographs are taken by two different people, and therefore at two different times.
Well, that would explain why there's different pictures.
Yeah, but isn't it fascinating that there are different pictures?
Yeah. Because
what is that mirror reflecting? When you look at the room, there's nothing there.
I know.
That it could possibly be reflected.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay, the name Elizabeth keeps coming forward.
Okay.
I'm thinking it may be connected.
Okay, well, tell us about another photograph that you're noticing, and I'll just check in. I think they had, well, as I say, 10 or 11 kids. Not all of them survived. And I'll see what they had in Elizabeth as a child.
Okay. Well, the bedrooms, I'm not actually 17, 19. I'm not really picking anything up in them. I can feel, they sort of feel like a little cold, like that's just basically where I slept, nothing important.
Right.
Okay. The oval room with the stained glass windows, number 20.
Yes.
I think there should have been a table or not just the chairs, but I feel like a table or something should have been there, and that I would sit there and watch outside, have a cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
Number 18, which I'm thinking is the living room, ballroom.
Right.
Okay. When I went, the first thing I heard when I went up to the second floor in the ballroom, and I'm in there and I'm looking around and kept thinking, can't people see them dancing? Okay. I could hear the music, and it went from ballroom dancing to light step dancing. I also heard like blues type of music. And so for me, and as I looked down at picture number 8, I just saw 2 people sit in the chair. wondering if they ever had seances in this place.
Well, I don't know, but we should do that.
Okay, because I just saw there was a little table with 3 legs and 3 chairs around it, and all of a sudden I felt like someone, and this would take us back to doing seances, the kind where they black out the room, have the burning candles.
Yeah.
I also think there's a maid in this room.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that one of the daughters was named Elizabeth Hamilton Dunsmuir.
Okay.
So well done on that one.
There must have been a squabble over the property, because I feel when I go through all the pictures, and like you say, there are 21 of them.
Yep.
I feel like, someone reaching out and trying to take back the land, take back what they believed was theirs. So there must have been something about, and I would think that Mr. Dunsmuir, Robert, would have been smart enough to do his will, but my feeling is there's squabble, and I would not be surprised if the squabble even went on to today.
Okay, well, let me fill you in then. That was really interesting about the photographs, and I got to tell you, we have the widow Joan and her 3 unmarried daughters and some orphaned grandchildren. They finally get to move into Craigdarroch in the summer of 1890, so 3 full years after construction began. For 18 years, Craigdarroch Castle shone at the pinnacle of Vancouver Island society, hosting countless parties and lavish weddings as Victoria's grandest house. But tragedy was also a constant visitor. And as you spotted, Darcy, nobody squabbles about estates or launches lawsuits better than the rich, and the Dunsmuirs were no exception. Left out of their father's will, Robert's 2 sons, James and Alexander, fought back, spending years and a fortune negotiating a deal with their mother Joan. Within 5 years, the Dunsmuir daughters, named Agnes and Marion, die, as does the younger son, Alexander. Then Queen Joan sues the older son, James. If you believe it, at the time he was the premier of BC. She sues him to contest the younger son, Alexander's will. Then, in 1908, a particularly devastating year for the Dunsmuir family, in March, daughter Effie was determined to be irrevocably insane and was permanently institutionalized. And in October the same year, the family matriarch, Queen Joan herself, left this mortal coil. Sadly, following her death, the fabled Dunsmuir fortune and the magnificent castle on the hill in Rockland began a gradual and devastating decline. Considered too large and too expensive as a family home, no surprises there, it became, as I said, an institutional home housing wounded World War I veterans, then a college, a school board, home of the Victoria School of Music, before finally being saved from demolition in 1979 by the Craigdarroch Castle Historical Museum Society. So with that overview, let's get down to a bit more of your paranormal bits, Darcy. Which person is most famously haunting Craigdarroch of the Dunsmuir family?
I would say Mr. Dunsmuir, followed by Mrs. Dunsmuir, because this was her shining glory.
Okay.
And I can say that with all certainty because I am totally covered with goosebumps from head to toe, and the energy flowing says, even though this was to show his wealth, this was her shining glory.
Oh, and that wouldn't surprise me, because she, as I say, for 18 years, she was the hostess of the mostess in Victoria and showed off her amazing castle to the top lengths that she could possibly go to. So I'm not surprised that she was proud of it. And I'm not surprised she's one of the ghosts you mentioned, because she definitely is the most seen ghost historically from Craigdarroch. Everybody seems to think it's Queen Joan. There is a ghost, Darcy, that has been seen, a man with a bowler hat and a walking stick. Would that possibly be Robert?
I would definitely say yes, but a lot of times you only get his trousers.
Tell me more.
Well, when I was downstairs in what I thought was where you go down the back stairs to the, I think it's the dining room area.
Yeah.
And there's at the back stairs were always for the maids and the footmen.
Right.
And I swear that I saw, and my daughter was with me at the time, that we actually saw trousers going up the stairs, but we thought, no, we're just imagining it. We were looking for ghosts, and we weren't being as successful as we thought we were. But when I went into that dining room, I felt like heavy, oppressed. I actually wanted to sit down and cry.
Oh, wow.
So much had transpired in this room of joy, sadness, happiness, and anguish that it was like a lot.
Are any of the photographs representative of that room?
I think that would be no, maybe you don't have it. There's the billiard room. That's where, no, I don't think you actually have it here.
Okay, all right. So but you saw that room and you saw your apparition.
Yes.
Okay.
And then also on the staircase, the black and white picture of the staircase.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait a minute. No, number 13.
Number 13?
It was, yeah. Sorry, it was right at the top.
Okay.
But there's another room that was, I wonder, no?
Okay, so 13 looks to me like the dining room, right?
Yeah. But
And
the one I saw, everything was set out. All the plates were set out. It was all ready for dinner.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure it wasn't the servant's quarter I was in. I thought it was the family's dining room.
Okay, well, it certainly could be. They could have the service out sometimes and not have it out all the time. Just happens this photograph doesn't have, it's just a plain table, but that's all right. That's a sense of the room anyway, that you're feeling, the heaviness that you're feeling is from that room.
Yes. And then, can you bring up photo 11?
Photo 11. Okay, I'm looking at photo 12. I'm looking at 10. Let me find. Oh, there. Yeah, that dark, spooky one, the black and white one of the dog leg of the amazing staircase.
Yes. And first of all, if you look to the top left corner, did you notice that there's an additional angle that shouldn't be there?
I do see that, and I wondered about that, Darcy. It seems to me like that's sort of a bit of a lightness and like almost like a curtain coming down at the very top left.
But it's not.
Oh, yeah? What is it?
It looks like a door. It looks like someone's opening a door.
Oh, cool.
And right at the top where the round banister is,
Yep.
I where that Joan Dunsmuir stood there a lot.
Wow. Can you get that sense? Because I would imagine that's a great spot for someone, the matriarch of a household, when people are coming to visit, right? You would be up there like Scarlett O'Hara about to come down and show everybody off.
Yes. And I keep seeing a Christmas tree.
Oh.
It's not in the picture, but I see a Christmas tree. And so Christmas must have been something in their place.
Yeah, I would. Okay.
Okay, and if you go to number 12,
Okay.
picture number 12 looks like a sitting area.
Yes.
And I feel the black chair that's up against the wall. I would say that it wouldn't be unsurprising to find Mr. Dunsmuir sitting there occasionally.
Really?
Yeah. And there seems to be a lot of activity around music. I hear a violin, and I hear their piano, and now that I say it out loud, you did say it was a conservatory at one time, and as I look through the pictures, I can hear the violin and the piano playing.
Okay, interesting. So it's fascinating because what you're, if I can put words in your mouth, you're picking up different eras of events and sounds and apparitions, not just from 1890 to 1910, but all the way through the history of Craig Derrick to now.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
It's not just the one. Like, even picture number 14 with the billiard room. Okay, at first when I opened it up and I looked at that one, sort of scared me for a minute because there's the two suits, right?
Yeah, I know. I thought that same thing. They've got these dummy suits standing there as if they're playing pool. They are a bit spooky.
Okay. But I I actually saw faces, and to me, they were military people.
Okay, so that was the era in the World War One when it was a nursing home then.
Yeah.
Hey,
And
that's cool. So there's so
it,
many layers on this house.
there is. It's just not one or two ghosts. There's all the energy that has been in this house at one given time.
That's amazing. Well, I can add a little bit here. So,
Do you, by any chance, know if someone tumbled down the staircase?
no, but I would imagine just a staircase like that must have had people take a little trip.
Oh, I mean the kind of trip where we break our neck.
And do you mean the kind of trip where you're pushed to break your neck?
Could be.
Could be. Who might have been pushed? Any sense?
It feels like a female. I feel like I'm trying to get her out of my way.
Oh, okay.
And the interesting part is I don't really feel like that kind of push that goes with anger. It's more, get out of my way. I just want to get away from you.
So the falling down and breaking the neck would have been possibly an accident.
Yes.
Okay. Well, as usual, Darcy, your intuition is really captivating, and it blows me away. I'll give you a sense of what visitors to Craig Derrick have said they've witnessed over the years, and we'll see. You've hit definitely. You've nailed a couple of them. So, some people have seen up those phenomenal oak paneled staircase a woman's foot wearing a white satin shoe, no less, gliding up the staircase. So a little bit like you're just seeing the trousers, they're just seeing the woman's foot.
Okay.
Okay, we've heard of seeing a little girl hiding in the basement. Now, you mentioned that there was a little girl that you're seeing, may or may not be a member of the Dunsmuir clan, but she's definitely been documented. We see in the ballroom, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about the ballroom if you see anything, a female figure dressed in white peeking out of the ballroom window. A maid, but as you say, maybe that's been mistaken and could be a World War I nurse wearing the headgear.
No, I think it could be both.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think there's a maid there too, because before you started telling all that, I was thinking, oh, I forgot the maid.
Okay, good. And then we have the man in the bowler hat with the walking stick. So that, as you mentioned, you think might be Robert Dunsmuir. That I haven't found actual documented facts that people have said that. They just have seen this image. And then, just as you have discovered, many disturbing sounds. A piano playing, a child sobbing, and the usual, I shouldn't say usual because that's not really very fair, but people have been smelling candle wax. And then experiencing, of course, the classic kind of gusts of icy air.
Yeah, I could see that. The other thing that I found, especially in the ballroom, is as soon as I walked into it, all I wanted to do was pick my partner and waltz. And I wanted to waltz until my feet hurt.
Oh, neat.
Until I was out of breath and that I could move on. Now, interesting enough, I think one of her daughters, one of the unmarried ones originally, may have been interested in a suitor up there, but I don't think he fit into the family scheme.
Okay, so he might have been rejected by the family and she might have been quite upset about it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
and then the other thing I kept seeing every time I looked out the window is I kept seeing lawn parties, the kind where the ladies were wearing those long dresses with the parasol and the gloves and the white linen on the table and the wind blowing.
wow, yeah.
And I feel that too.
So do you feel that would be the time when Craig Derrick was at its pinnacle, the time when it was 18 years as the greatest house in Victoria, those parties?
Yes. I would say it was those parties. There was also a little gambling going on in there, too.
That wouldn't surprise me, but where would they be doing that, do you think? In the billiard room?
I would think in the billiards room, yeah.
Yeah. And do you see, now we talked about this idea that you're able to see the layers of the history of this house. I would have thought the World War I wounded might be haunting Craig Derrick.
I think There are a few, but I feel like the peace that they got when they were received into the house allowed them to move on.
Oh, okay. So it was a very positive experience for them rather than a terrible place to be.
It was very positive. I felt like they were well taken care of. If anything, I would have said one of the doctors and the nurses, because I swear I saw the nurse,
Uh-huh.
that they may have stayed behind because they didn't feel like they finished quite what they wanted to start. And the place was like the ballroom was literally littered with beds for people.
Oh, with beds. That makes sense, doesn't it? So it would have been a hospital room.
Yep.
Oh, so you could see that?
I could, as we're talking, it sort of falls into my head sort of thing.
Ah.
And I can't help, and remember the one room, like the dining area, where I said that there was a lot of anguish, it felt like, in that area?
Yeah.
I am beginning to wonder if they used it as the main area for when the doctors had to do something.
So like that would have been the operating theater.
I'm thinking it might have.
So a lot of pain and anguish would be emanating from that room.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's really interesting because then it's not the pain and anguish of the Dunsmuirs. It's pain and anguish from a next era.
It can be both because I know the boys were really upset with their dad.
Yes. Well, they had expected to benefit directly from his will. They'd worked with him all their adult lives, and they had serious jobs in the company and had done very well. And they had expected definitely to benefit themselves. And then when Robert died and left everything only to Joan, they were devastated.
Yeah, that's so unusual in that day and time for everything to go to the wife. So
yeah.
I see why they would be devastated. But I do feel like at the end of the day that Alex died, right?
Yep. Yes, he did.
The boy who was lieutenant governor, he could have shunned his mom to her, which I'm pretty sure they did not talk till her dying day. But I would think that there has to be remorse on his side that things weren't cleared up.
Well, it's interesting you say that because you're right. He didn't speak to his mother for many, many years. And he went on. He was the premier of BC and, as you said, lieutenant governor of BC. And he did go to her funeral and he broke down. And that was the first time he'd had anything to do with his mother for many years as a result of the acrimony from the lawsuits. So, yes, I think he definitely wished he'd contacted his mother earlier, but he didn't.
Did their one sister, it was Ethel, right, who was diagnosed?
Effie. Her name was Effie.
Effie.
Yeah.
Did she die in an institution?
She did. She died many years later in an institution, yes. Okay,
because as we're talking, my impression is she may have came home at the end of her death.
That I don't know. I guess it's possible because I think she was institutionalized permanently, but in those days possibly they could come home, go back into the institution, come home. I don't really know.
Oh, no, that's not what I mean.
Oh, okay.
I mean, she died, she came home.
Oh, explain that.
Okay, spirit, when we die, we can go wherever we want, okay? And if her joy was in such a pretty surrounding, and that's how I hear it, I would say I would be surprised if no one spots her on the lawn.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
What might she be wearing that we could look for next time we visit Craig Derrick?
It looks, oh my God, she's the lady in white.
She's the lady in white.
I was going to go, she's wearing a white dress.
Well, I guess she is then.
Yeah. She's not my nurse, because the nurse is in white as well. This is like one of those pretty party frocks with the ruffles and the white gloves and a hat with some pink and purple flowers on it. And her hair nicely coiled behind her.
Cool.
With the parasol.
Okay, well, she, I think, was quite a funky gal for the time. So it sounds like she would be that sort of style.
Yeah.
But sadly, mentally had some difficulties later in life, which is a great shame.
It is.
Yeah. Well, Darcy, That was really interesting. It's just, I think this has been, for me, a different discussion because you're not only focusing, as we talked about, the Craig Derrick ghosts, and you're naming both Joan and Robert, which is interesting, but to talk about the ghosts and apparitions and events from the beginning of Craig Derrick's construction to, closer to today, I find that multi-level, noticing apparitions on a multi-level is just fascinating.
Well, and that's the thing, because there's history, not just with the people who purchased the land and built the house. There's the history of everything that came with it, and energy gets left behind. Just like our own houses, when we buy a house from someone else, there is energy from the people prior to us. Yeah. And so you either flow with the energy, remove it a little bit, and remember to remove yours as you're leaving your premise, so that there's always new energy coming in. But I don't think at that day and time people really understood energy and that they could leave an imprint, because that's basically what it is. They've left their imprint on the premise.
So are you saying we can take our energy with us?
Yes. When you go to leave a house, you can ask the house, let the house know, you talk to it, you tell it you're leaving and that you're going to take the energy. Now, when there's been tragedy or anger or frustration in a house, that's a little harder to take with you.
Okay,
that energy, and that's the kind of energy that gets left behind. Anything tragic, frustrated, anger, that's all the energy left behind. But it doesn't always come across as that. It comes across as sadness. It comes across as disappointment. And sometimes you do feel the anger and the frustration that went with it.
Okay, well then if I'm leaving behind that kind of, let's say, negative energy, does it leave me then? Can I kind of dump it and move on?
No, because it's part of who you are.
Bummer.
If you learn to remove the energy now from yourself, then yes, it can leave you.
Okay, but that would take some training.
It's just an understanding that when you get angry, turn it around. Find something that makes it happy. Okay, it's like stubbing your toe in the morning. When you stub your toe in the morning, and if you start doing that little swear and dance on the spot routine and,
yep,
everything that goes with it, pay attention to the rest of your day. It's going to be like that. But if you get up, stub your toe, and take a few minutes, do your little dance of pain, and then say, okay, this is all you're going to get from me today, because now I'm going to have a good day.
Oh, I see. Okay, and you put it in its place.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to take you back to when you visited Craig Derrick with your daughter. You said something to me that was very striking. You said you weren't sure if you were seeing things when you saw the trousers. How do you distinguish the difference between seeing things and thinking you're seeing things, since you see things all the time?
Okay. Well, that's always a little bit of a difficulty sometimes. But the difference is the sensation that's left from it for me. Like if it was just the person, I would have felt the energy moving away. Okay. It would have gone with the person. But in this particular case, when we saw the trouser, and actually we also saw a lady at the time, that we realized that this was different. This energy made my goosebumps. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And then I always get this feeling that, especially if I pass through a ghost, that I want to throw up.
Oh.
Okay. There's this feeling. It's literally, as I talk about energy, it's an energy source.
Okay.
It tells me the difference.
Oh, okay, that's fascinating. But you have to get in tune with that.
Yeah, but I grew up with it.
Okay, well, that's actually, Darcy, leads us to our listener's question. This week we have a listener's question from Carla, and she asks you, Darcy, when did you first realize you could see dead people, and how did it affect you?
Okay, my first cognitive memory would be somewhere around 6 and under. And his name was Herbert. He was from the First or Second World War. I never know. I know he had a uniform. he would come at night when I was just about to fall asleep, and he would start talking to me. The first few times I hid under my covers and cried because he scared me.
Yeah.
Because half his head was missing.
So you're actually seeing a physical presence with half a head missing.
Yes.
Oh my God, a 6-year-old. Okay.
So I told him that for me to be able to talk to him, he asked me what was wrong, and I said, "You're scaring me." And next thing I know, he looked normal. He didn't realize that I could actually see him either. I think he thought I could just hear him.
Oh, okay. So he was able to change his manifestation to be something that wouldn't scare you.
Yes, and that's the deal with any ghost with me, is if they want me to help, they have to look like they would in life, because otherwise I can't do it. I can't get past my own fear.
So, okay, that's I like that. That's kind of a really cool spot to be at, because what you're saying is just like me and probably anybody else in the world, if I saw a ghost, I would be petrified. You are scared as well.
I used to be, and every now and then one will get to me. When I moved into Esquimalt, I moved into a one-bedroom, and before I moved into it, people brought me through it. And when we left, I got in my car, and I said to my daughter, I said, "What, is she dumb? She didn't think I could see the guy in the bedroom?" And my daughter said, "No, I guess she didn't think you." And I could. And I phoned her, and I said, "I don't know about this." And they made it a really lucrative offer because it was way cheaper than anything else I was going to rent.
Okay.
So I decided to take the place. And the first month I had to sleep in the living room on the floor with the light on. I would not sleep in the bedroom.
You're kidding. Wow. And you've experienced a lot of apparitions in your day.
Yes, I wouldn't even go in the bedroom. Even my cat wouldn't go in the bedroom. So finally, after a month and tired of sleeping on the floor, I went into the bedroom. First, I knocked on the door, asked if I could come in, because I closed the bedroom off.
I don't blame you.
And I got invited in, and I went in, and I sat down, and I said, "Look, we're going to make a deal here. I can't keep sleeping on the floor. I'm too old. And you really can't keep scaring the crap out of me."
Right.
And so I couldn't actually see this man at the time, but I knew he was there. You could feel him. And since we've moved in, and it's been almost 3 years now, he only shows up once in a while. Whenever he gets a little lonely, he shows up. And I know he doesn't mean me any harm, but, when you get up in the middle of the night, you walk through this big draft of cold air, you're shivering, and then you walk through the doorway of the bedroom, and then you're hot because the room's hot. It's like, really, couldn't you have knocked first, is what I keep saying to him.
So what you're saying is that he's entered your room, you weren't aware of it, and you've gone passed right through him to get out of your room.
Yes.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, that's about what I say, too, when it happens. And then I actually gave him a name.
Oh, what do you call him?
I call him Dave.
And what does he think of that?
He doesn't respond, but whenever I say to him, "Okay, Dave, that's it, out of here," he does leave, so at least he knows I gave him a name.
So let me push you a little bit further here. When you say he leaves, and when you talk to him, are you only hearing him, or are you actually seeing something?
In this particular case, it's a little of both.
Oh, okay.
Okay, he's got a very deep, gravelly voice.
That would be scary.
And I get an image of him to my side. He's probably close to my height, so 5'10", 6 feet tall. I would say 180, 85 pounds. And he's had a goatee at one time in his life, and he's very much a distinguished person. Somehow I wondered whether or not he had lived in the area at one time. Like, because I'm in an apartment building, it's feasible this could have been his land.
Right. What era would you say he's from?
Oh, I'm sort of looking, I would say probably was born in 1920
Okay.
or 1989, 1902, and probably died 1992.
Oh, so he lived a good long life.
Yeah, he did. It's not a case of anything happened to him. I think he just died naturally, but it doesn't mean he doesn't believe this is still his land.
So, yeah, I was just going to ask you, so why is he haunting you and that apartment?
Well, he wasn't just haunting me. The people who had the apartment knew he was here.
Okay, so he's been haunting that place for a while.
Yeah. He's been haunting this place for a while, and I think it was a case of I came in, and I really don't put up with a lot of crap from ghosts. So, I thought, there's no way, if I'm living here, this is my place. You're more than welcome to visit, but on my terms.
Why is he haunting then?
Because this used to be his land.
And he's got nothing better to do?
Nope, nothing better to do.
I'll be damned. Okay.
I think he was lonely. You know, and the fact that I was willing to speak to him made a huge difference for him.
But why hasn't he gone where ghosts go, or people go when they die, and they have another whole dimension that they're involved with, and they're not around here?
Well, that's where everyone's confused. Because even though a person dies and their energy leaves their body, okay, and as I'm talking to you, I can see my dad, okay, that piece of energy is still able to come back to visit if they want to. When I die, I plan on haunting a lot of people.
But then are we, in this instance, are we misusing the term haunting? Because generally that's a negative thing. You're being bothered by an apparition. You're being, they're doing something that's negative to you. Is it less that and more like I'm just wanting to visit because I want to be back where I used to be?
Well, yes, but people only know the word haunting.
Yeah, we got to come up with something that's a little more likable.
Because I've seen haunted to the fact that you've got the sheet over your head and you're never coming out because you're terrified of what's there.
Yep.
And this is just an apparition making a visit.
Yeah, so let's call it visitations.
Yes, we can call them visitations.
Okay.
Like, if we go back to our first story about the lady at
the golf course.
She's haunting.
Yes, she's upset. She wants something.
Yes. Whereas when I talk about Craig Derrick, it's not haunting. This is memories of them being there and how they loved and I'm totally covered in goosebumps, how they loved the concept of what their wealth achieved for them.
Okay, that's so interesting. So that, in fact, Joan and Robert are visiting their beloved castle.
Yes.
They're not haunting it.
Nope, because I don't feel like they're going out of their way to scare the crap out of people.
Right, yeah. Okay, well, that's another reason why this episode has been very atypical to our others, that we aren't talking specifically about scary, nasty hauntings. We're talking about people who had an enjoyable life or wanted to come back to a time which was an enjoyable life.
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, Darcy. Well, that's you answered Carla's question. Thank you. And we got a lot more information, which is fascinating. So I have to say to you, good luck with Dave. Say hello to him for us. And I hope he doesn't visit too often.
He doesn't, but, if you'd like a visit, I can send him to her.
No, thanks. You keep him. I think he's safe in Esquimalt. I'd rather not have anything to do with Dave. Thank you very much, even though he's just a visitor.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Darcy. As always, a pleasure. Fascinating storylines and really cool insights on your part and intuition into what happened during many, many years in Craig Derrick Castle.
Well, thank you, Nicola, for having me on. I've really enjoyed it. And I look forward to the next one.
Okay, great. You may know this medieval stone mansion as the set for many of your favorite movies, like the X-Men series, Deadpool, and Poltergeist. But Hatley Park, located just outside Victoria, British Columbia, boasts more than movie stars. You'll meet several of the documented ghostly apparitions whose appearances have terrified visitors to this Edwardian castle for decades in our next eerie episode, which we've tagged Haunting Hatley Park. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Seeing Dead People. Whatever's going on in Darcy's head, I think is so cool and astonishing. We'd love to hear from you with questions for Darcy about her psychic process or suggestions for other mystifying situations you would like us to investigate. So please, shoot us an email to info@radiosydney.ca with Seeing Dead People in the subject line. New episodes of Seeing Dead People will emerge on the first Saturday of every month and will also be available every Saturday night at 8 p.m. and Sunday morning at 10 a.m., both Pacific Standard Time. Seeing Dead People will also be available as a downloadable podcast online at radiosydney.ca for your convenience. Thanks so much for listening to Seeing Dead People. I really dig researching, writing, and communicating with Darcy and her otherworldly contacts. So until the next time, remember, Seeing Dead People is a blast with goosebumps guaranteed.
This has been a program of Radio Sydney.